All right, so for those of you that don't know me, I don't know if I see some new faces. My name is Donnell, but my close friends and family call me Jag, short for Jaguar, and that's what I go by. That's the identity that God has put inside of me, and I live by it. I fight for it, to hold on to it and achieve it every day. And today, I have the honor and the privilege to be used to speak a message that currently is hitting me. As I'm taking notes and trying to prepare, I write a line and it convicts me. Like he's just hitting, I'm like, God, like, can I soak this in before I speak it to them? Because I need to work on this in my life. So it's just like every line, I'm like, hey, God, like, oh, okay, oh, that hurt. So I'm not here to try to hurt you, so you don't have to embrace the hits, but I'm here to just open your eyes the way God opened my eyes, and in hopes that it would change how you view things. The benefits that I see of today's message for myself that I'm grabbing is to be able to see when I walk into a room, work, life, pursuing my dream, all this stuff, with what he showed me here, it just raised my level even higher. Every one of us has this burning desire to do something, to be significant, all these things. And what I have for today, what God put inside of me today, is to help spark that fire to like, oh, this is going into a new level. So that's what my prayer has been and is going to be for you guys. And let's begin. Today's message is called The Response. And I'm calling it The Response. You will see why. In life, you've heard that you can react to life or you can respond to life. And the response, I'm using an example of someone in the Word, how they responded to something. And I'm using a person that I don't know if I heard used that often in this context. So that excites me because it was fresh for me. If you already heard this, cool. I'm hoping that it's be fresh for you today too. But it was fresh for me. And we're going to turn to Luke 1, chapter 1. And in this chapter, I'm going to build the story for you guys. There was a priest, Zechariah. And basically, to sum it up, Zechariah ends up being John the Baptist's father, right? And his wife, Elizabeth, is barren. And now, they've been, even despite that though, despite her not being able to have kids, they were faithful, righteous, and everything like that. And that alone, right there, is just like, man, even though you're not getting what you may want in life, they were still faithful. The word writes down that, man, they were faithful. They were righteous before God. So it's Zechariah's time to be able to go in the temple and do his duties. And Luke, I didn't even turn there. Luke chapter 1. I'm going to start from verse 8. Luke chapter 1, verse 8. Now, while he was serving as a priest before God, when his division was on duty, according to the custom of the priesthood, he was chosen by lot to enter the temple of the Lord and burn incense. This can only happen for a priest once in their lifetime. So this is his once in a lifetime moment. So he's already geeked up about that. And the whole multitude of people were praying outside at the hour of incense. And there appeared to him an angel of the Lord standing on the right side of the altar of incense. And Zechariah was troubled when he saw him, and fear fell upon him. And the angel said to him, "Do not be afraid, Zechariah, for your prayer has been heard, and your wife Elizabeth will bear you a son, and you shall call his name John. And you will have joy and gladness, and many will rejoice at his birth, for he will be great before the Lord, and he must not drink wine or strong drink, and he will be filled with the Holy Spirit, even from his mother's womb. And he will turn many of the children of Israel to the Lord their God, and he will go before him in the spirit and power of Elijah, to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the disobedient to the wisdom of the just, and to make ready for the Lord a people prepared. That's like a mouthful. That's so much information. Not only am I finally having my son through my wife that was barren, you're saying he's going to do all this great stuff. My son. That's what you would think, right? And here's Zechariah's response. And Zechariah said to the angel, let me say, here's Zechariah's reaction. And Zechariah said to the angel, how shall I know this? For I am an old man, and my wife is advanced in years. He just called his wife old. Bad rule. And the angel answered him, I am Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God, and I was sent to speak to you and to bring you this good news. And behold, you will be silent and unable to speak until the day that these things take place, because you did not believe my words, which will be fulfilled in their time. And that's the main focus I want to stay on, is what I just read. Now, what's crazy to me, I've read this story many times. Almost everybody here has probably heard this story. And it wasn't until I made a decision, hey, you know what? I'm going to take the book of Luke, and I'm just going to study that. I'm not going to go anywhere else. If it takes me other places, cool, but I just want to study Luke. I don't care how many years, whatever. And so that made me want to, let me look a little deeper in things. And what got me was Gabriel's response. Even though Zechariah didn't appreciate what was being said, he was focused on the negative and all these things, what got me was Gabriel's response. And I know he's an archangel and everything, but there are principles, there are key things in what he said that we can use for ourselves. So I don't want you to detach what he said from you just because he's an archangel. I want you guys to take these principles that I'm about to talk about, that Gabriel did in his response to Zechariah, and take it in for yourself. So the first thing I asked myself, why did he respond that way? I asked that because I want to know, it seems so confident. It seems so, like he was just strong about it. He was just ready, and he responded. And at first, I would think to take his response and go to the world and be like, hey, I am Jag. I stand in the presence of God, and he sent me to speak to you. It's easy to just grab what he said, but something I learned along the way is that I want something more than what he said. I want what caused him to say what he said. What was it that surfaced that thought, or that phrase, or whatever he said? What caused it to surface? Because we do it a lot. Let's say we visit a church or whatever. They got some dope ideas. Oh, that's hot. That's hot. That's hot. Yo, come back to our home. Yo, let's do this. Let's do that. And that's great and all. But what I'm more concerned about is, what was the mindset that caused that church to think to do that idea? Because that's what I want. Because that mindset will create more ideas. Another example is like athletes, man. Kids coming up, growing up, they always want to watch sports and see, ooh, that was a nice move for like basketball. They'll go in their backyard and try to do it and try to keep doing that move. But again, a better question is, well, what was the mindset of that athlete that caused him in the midst of the game to perform that move? Because that's what we want. That's the mindset we want. An example, Cheryl McGrinnis. She's the author of Beauty Beyond the Ashes. And her example really hit me because of her response. Basically, her husband was the co-pilot in the 9/11 crash. And of course, he died. And her response afterwards was amazing to me. Not only did she write a book about it, she went speaking about it and all these great things. And here's something that she said. As unfair, unreasonable, and impossible as it seems, we still have to do. After a tragedy occurs, we still have roles to fill. We still have responsibilities to family and others. The stuff of life may pause for a while, but it doesn't stop. For fair or not, that is reality. This is a lady, out of all the airplanes that they could have hijacked, had to be the one that her husband was in. And this is her response afterwards. It didn't defeat her. She actually used it to inspire and help other people, wrote a book about it, and said, listen, I know this thing happened in my life, but that doesn't mean everything just stops. People still need us. People still we're responsible for other lives. We're responsible to keep pushing and pressing on. What causes that response after something as tragic as that? After somebody did that to your husband, to millions of people's lives changed because of this event, and that's how you respond? You call it beauty after ashes? You call it beauty? And so I'm trying to get you guys to remember, like, those surface responses have a mindset behind it. And I want to grab on to the mindset of what caused you to just say that? Gabriel, I am Gabriel. I stand at the presence of God. And I was sent especially to you to speak this news. Another thing that was weird about Gabriel's response was the time that he said his response. And I want to say why. Because if you see in the beginning, he doesn't introduce himself. That's kind of weird to me, because in the things that you learn, books, like in a book, as a character, you want to introduce a character so you get familiar with them. In a movie, you want to introduce a movie. You know, if it's a spy guy, you see his name tag, I don't know, something. They introduce a name. So with this, he doesn't introduce himself. He says everything, and then he says who he is. In Toastmasters, me, Pastor Art, Danielle, Jawanza, we all did Toastmasters together. And that's something that they teach you. They say, hey, if you're doing a speech, you got to come up, state your name, what you're speaking about, and then state 3 key things that you're going to talk about. That's like the golden rule. That's for effective communication. Gabriel did not have that. He did not come in and make his 3 points. He actually came in. He saw he was scared. He didn't even comfort him like, hey, no, it's cool. Listen, I'm Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God, and I was sent to speak to you. Don't be scared. He just straight up said everything that God told him to say. It wasn't until Zechariah said what he says, like, how am I supposed to believe you? And then he says his greeting, I'm Gabriel. That's why it's kind of weird to me. What caused him to say it at that time? And not only that, he also meets somebody right after he meets Zechariah, 6 months later into Elizabeth's pregnancy, he talks to Mary. No greeting. He didn't say his name or anything. And Mary asked, well, you know, how's this supposed to be because I'm a virgin? And he doesn't say I am Gabriel to her. So what made him choose at that moment with just Zechariah to respond that way? And the first thing I want to talk about is Zechariah, basically, it showed that he just straight up doubted. He was like, listen, how am I supposed to believe? Give me, it's so many translations that talk about, give me something that will make me believe what you are saying. This is weird. Angel that just appeared out of nowhere, that freaked me out. I need some proof of what you're saying. Really? And what gets me is that every time I read this, I'm like, man, Zechariah, you should have been like Mary. She believed, man. You screwed up. You messed up, right? And so what hit me, though, was that Zechariah, he wanted earthly proof in order to believe a spiritual act will happen. Zechariah wanted earthly proof. You got an angel of God in front of you. He says these things about you, and you want earthly proof in order to believe a spiritual act will happen. Now, what hurts is when I word it that way, it hits home. Somebody wanting earthly proof in order for a spiritual act, in order to believe in a spiritual act to happen. And why that bothers me, and I'm sure it bothers some of you guys, is that there's a bunch of things that God has shown and said to us. Dreams and all these things and promises in this word and all that stuff. And subconsciously at times you're like, I don't believe it. Why? Because there's no earthly proof that says what you spiritually will do, God. There's no earthly proof, so no, I will not believe that. I need something. You got to give me something. And what's crazy is I'm thinking about Zechariah. It's like, I feel like Gabriel is thinking in his head, really, Zechariah? Like, you want earthly proof? After all this earth offered you, your wife is barren. And you're old, like years and years. You know that. You live with that every day. That's the proof. That's the evidence that the earth gives you every day. Your wife is barren. And I'm giving you something huge, something bigger. And you still want to rely on that earthly proof? After it done beat you up time and time again? Still, Zechariah? Why? Like, why are you relying on that? It reminds me of crime shows. You know, the only time I really watch TV is with Tigress, my wife, and when we were just chilling, spending time together, she loves crime shows. She loves crime shows, and in crime shows, you'll have certain scenarios. So a cop or somebody may have evidence on a drug lord or a crime boss, right? And they're like, man, I got this one little piece of evidence. Can we take them down? Like, can we take them down? And then the other officer says, that's not enough. You need this, you need that, you need to prove this in order for us to get this guy. Because you always think about that crime boss who's been doing it for years and you know he's doing that thing, you just can't prove it. And somebody just wants, like, I got something, is this enough? And so why it's so frustrating for people who want to like take that guy down is because they need enough to bring to the court to be able to take them down. Like, we finally got this guy. So they need enough. They need evidence to be able to bring into a system of decision making for something to happen. They need evidence enough to bring into a system of decision making for something to happen. So why I say that is, the scary part that God convicted me with is this is what we do then. We come up, we say, God, I'm gonna need you to get up, move to the side, come to my courtroom. What dream or whatever you have for me, I need evidence, because this is my system of decision making, and that's the only way what you're saying is gonna happen as long as I see evidence. So excuse me, get off that throne and come look at my seat in my courtroom. Because this is my system of decision making, and I need evidence that will work in my court. Now that convicted the mess out of me, because I am guilty of I don't even know how many times I did that to God. I mean, he would give me spiritual proof, like, hey, Jag, I want you to do this, here. Okay, that's not enough. Okay, here, years later, here. I'm trying to let you, how much do you need? Because even though it's disgusting for me to tell him to come off his throne and come down here into my courtroom and see how I do things, and then I'll perform, as disgusting as it is, he still gives me proof. He still shows me his love. He still shows, no, this is what I have for you, especially still. Even though you still want me to try to work in your system, I'm showing you still. I don't get mad. I don't discard you. Eventually you'll see, but that's the love that he continues to have, even though. So that was Zechariah's problem. I just straight up think that he was frustrated. Listen, they said he was righteous, he keeps with the law and everything, and yet every day he saw his wife was barren. So I'm assuming at one point he's like, listen, it is what it is. I'm just gonna live with that, and let's just keep doing our thing. And so he's doing his thing, and then all of a sudden this angel says, here's what's gonna happen, you're gonna have a son. He probably was like, look, really? Now? After all this time? Like, you know how much I went to? I was trying, I was praying and everything. And all of a sudden now, no, you give me proof. I almost feel that's how he was thinking. But again, it doesn't give us the right to create our own courtroom system of decision making that God has to show evidence that only works in our policy of decision making. And it sucks to hear it that way, but it is what it is. And I want us to avoid, in fact, I want us to see in our lives, where are we doing that? So that we can start pulling those stuff out. So we can start seeing that, listen, this earthly evidence, like this world has already beaten us up just like Zechariah. So listen, you know what? I'm going to, Father, help me, help my faith, help me to start looking at your evidence, looking at what you say and just taking it regardless of the earthly evidence. So, Zechariah, the first thing he says is Gabriel, the first thing he says is, I am Gabriel. So, for me, I love playing scenarios in my head of how something might have went down. And I feel like Gabriel, all right, God, you want me to go do this? All right, cool. I'll go bring it down. He flies down, comes down, and he sees him coming. Like, hold on, watch what it says. Boom, like, he just stands up there. He's just like, oh, whoa. It's like, don't be afraid, right? So he tells him all these things, right? And he's just like, boom, yo, John is going to be boom, 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 boom. And I know you've been waiting, but here, boom. This is what God told me to tell you. And then Zechariah says, how am I supposed to believe you? I'm a man, and an old man, and my woman is old too. And for me, my response, I think his facial reaction was like, he was looking at it, he told him everything, he's like, hold on. This human is telling me to give him proof. This human, okay. So I feel like he's looking at him, he's like, are you serious? Like, do you know who I am? I am Gabriel. That's the only logical reason, in my opinion, that I think he would respond like that. I was like, are you serious? You You're talking to me? I am Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God, and I was sent to speak to you about this good news. So it's like, how dare you? Like, he's offended. Like, I'm Gabriel. And so Zechariah must have thought, like, the first second that he said, I am Gabriel, he probably thought, like, first of all, that's not what I asked you. I said, I need proof. Like, how am I supposed to know this? I don't want to know your name. Like, if I wanted to know your name, I would have asked you, right? And so he's like, that's not the question I asked, right? And what's crazy is Gabriel knows that, but why did Gabriel not answer that question? And what God showed me is that the question has confines in it. The question has barriers in it. The question is a trap. The question is a trap to have you dwell on something that takes you out of the mindset necessary for you to be able to say something like Gabriel did. For you to be able to walk in a situation and say something like Gabriel did. That question was a trap. So there are questions in this world. It may not be verbally spoken to you presently or whatever, but situations in your life, they ask questions. Situations in your life ask a bunch of questions. A bunch of questions like, are you good enough? Do you have what it takes? Are you making enough money? Are you smart enough? Are you pretty enough? Do you have enough education in this? Life asks you a bunch of questions. And this example is where I'm trying to show you Gabriel didn't even play with those stuff because he knew it was a trap. Because had he entertained him, it would limit what he was supposed to be focused on. It would have him dwell on the questions, on the boundaries of that question that's limited, and would limit his mindset. And when you limit your mindset, you limit your perspective, you limit your grid, you limit your response. In fact, you may more so react rather than respond to the world. Because react, for example, is if your kids are going wild, just shut up. That's a reaction, like, that's not good. Like, you need to control that, which is what response is. It's like, they're getting me mad, but let me respond. I don't have that problem because I don't got kids, so you guys, I feel bad for you parents. But we pass down the youth to them too, so we're like super good. So, these questions that life throws at you on, like, it's like super fast. So fast that you don't even realize it consciously, it's subconscious, and you stay answering it, right? There was a time where I was like super serious about rapping, right? And I was writing and all this stuff, and I'm currently not rapping now because it was a launch pad for me to speak. And it's weird, I don't know how to explain it quick enough, but that era of rapping helped me for being up in the stage and being able to articulate things and deliver things a certain way. But at that time, there was a time where I wanted to give up on rapping. And it had nothing to do with skills. It had nothing to do with me. I was just not doing anything. The only thing was the question. Life asked me a question that I answered. I'm like, hold up, man. First of all, I don't have that deep voice. I don't have that deep voice like rappers do, and they sound hard. Like, that was the era where you got to sound hard. Now today, you can sound like a little kid, la, 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 and you sell records. But back then, you had a deep voice. Like, we took you seriously. Now it's like, yeah, man, I'm going to come in and I'm going to shoot you up. I'm like, bro, I can't even see you seriously, man. Like, can you put some trouble in that or something? Like, take some trouble out of that? So at the time, I'm thinking, first, I don't have that deep voice. Two, I'm not coming from like these selling drugs or shooting and stuff like that. That's not me. That's not who I am. I'm not saying I didn't come from anything. I'm just saying I didn't sell drugs. I didn't shoot up stuff. But that was what the world was saying was what you should be. And so I remember one time I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I trying to rap? Because I'm not gonna match that. I'm not gonna make that. And it was almost to the point of depressing almost. Like, it's like, dang, like all this time invested, all this time people invested in me, my brother, my cousins, and all that stuff. It was like, dang, you know, I don't think I could do this. And then it switched right then and there. It's like I had to get out of that question and then go to the things that God has done in my life with this gift. And once I got out of that boundary of the question, I went over there, I was able to see like, well, hold up. This ain't me. God's going to power the lyrics. God's going to power the words. So, no, I'm not worried about that. Let it go. And had I stuck with it, I would have been like dope right now because it doesn't matter. So my main thing is, like, what I want to say is there are questions that are constantly going to be thrown at you. But don't take the bait, man. Don't take the bait. These fighters, these athletes and stuff, the opponent is trying to get them out of their game, right? They're trying to do all that stuff. For example, I love this. This is one of my favorite moments. Even though I'm not a fan of Kobe Bryant, I respect him tremendously. And he was in one of the finals, and one guy was trying to get Kobe out of his game, doing anything, as much as taking the ball while the guy had the ball and Kobe was sticking him, taking the ball and acting like he was throwing it in his face, like right there, throwing it in his face, and Kobe didn't react. And so afterwards, after they win the game, they asked Kobe, it's like, hey, you saw all those things that this guy was doing to you. Why didn't you respond? And I love his line. He only used 3 words. He said, why should I? Dang, why should I? It's just, what reason does that give me to respond? He could play all his games. This world could ask all his questions. It could do all those things. Why should we respond? Why should we? Unless we give it reasons, then we'll respond. But why should we respond? Why should we take the bait? Another key thing in I Am Gabriel and what he was saying. Please go back to the I Am Gabriel slide. Now, another thing that he was saying, I Am Gabriel, was that Gabriel wasn't the only person there that identified himself. Gabriel wasn't the only person that said, I am this. Notice that Zechariah did the same thing. He said, I am an old man, versus I am Gabriel. So I am meaning to exist, right? I am Gabriel. And he's saying to exist. Now, both of them took on an identity. And what's crazy to me is why didn't Zechariah say to Gabriel, I am Zechariah, right? And it proves to me the key point, because Zechariah means the Lord remembers, right? If he were to say that, it would automatically not even allow himself to identify himself as an old man, one. He would have received everything that Gabriel was saying if he remembered his name. The Lord remembers. It works perfectly there. You were living life feeling like you were forgotten. He comes and shows you, no, you weren't forgotten. He heard your prayer. If you kept on that name, you wouldn't respond like that. So he didn't say, I am Zechariah and she's old. No, that would not have worked. He says, he speaks in the grid of what is on earth. Zechariah was a God-given definition. And he identifies himself with, I am an old man. She is an old woman. You got to prove to me. And that's why I respect the I am Gabriel. Like you told me who you are, I'll tell you who I am. Unlimited. I'm not limited. And how dare you try to bring your truth into my truth? How dare you? Your truth is not even truth, and you're trying to bring it in here. You're trying to bring your limitation into the truth of God. I'm Gabriel. Yeah, you're an old man, but I'm Gabriel. And that's why I think he responded the way he did. It's like you're totally off in the wrong grid, using the wrong identity. So after I am Gabriel, he says, I stand in the presence of God. Now, before I jump to that, one key thing, I always got to add Batman in there. And I love this one meme. These memes are so funny, right? So this came to me before, and I felt like Gabriel was just straight up. Like, if that's all he said, I am Gabriel, that would have been enough. Because there was this meme, and you can bring up the picture. It says, Batman says, made a list of reasons why I'm better than you, Superman. And Superman says, the only thing that's in there, it just says I'm Batman. It's like, wait, this ain't no list. You just say I'm Batman. He's like, that's all I need. I'm Batman. Right? And another crazy one, I don't have it up. You see Flash, Superman is ready to race Flash, is ready to go. And then they're both ready to race each other because they're super fast. And then all of a sudden, you see Batman come on the line too. And then in the picture, you see Flash is like, what? And then Superman's like, what? And the only thing Batman said is, I'm Batman. It's like, oh, that's all the reason you need. And so it's like, I love that. It's like that attitude, like, I'm Gabriel. Like, that's all you need to hear. But he adds more. He says, I stand in the presence of God. Oh, so many things in this. I stand in the presence of God. And if you look at that word, if you study that word in a biblical context, there are many meanings in there. To present, to provide, to place a person or thing at one's disposal, to present a person for another to see and question, to present or show, to bring near, bring into one's fellowship or intimacy. I stand in the presence of God. That blew my mind. I'm like, that's all that it means? Because I'm thinking it's like, oh, the throne is here. It's like, oh yeah, I'm saying it. That's what I thought at first. But when you look at it, he's saying, no. I stand in the presence of God. So for me, what I got from it, he's saying, I'm not just Gabriel. I'm consistently Gabriel. Big difference. I'm not just Gabriel, I'm consistently Gabriel. I am ready in the presence of God. I am ready to be used in the presence of God. Consistently. And when I think of consistently, just this year, the word consistently changed for me and the effect that it has. Because I was looking at my notes for a book I was reading from Jim Collins, who studies the success of great businesses that have sustained results. And he said what he got from the research. This is what he said. And you can put it up. We found in all our research studies that the signature of mediocrity is not an unwillingness to change, like Kodak didn't change and all that. The signature of mediocrity is chronic inconsistency. That should scare you, because he never said greatness is the opposite of mediocrity. He said, no, chronic inconsistency. Always starting, stopping. Always starting, stopping. What you start could be great, could be innovative, could be powerful, could change people's lives. But because it's inconsistent, that's mediocrity. I never looked at mediocrity like that, because it stripped away this thing of as long as I'm doing things great. No, as long as you are Gabriel consistently, as long as you are Jag consistently, as long as you guys are children of God consistently, that's when greatness happens in your life. So Gabriel was consistently Gabriel. He was ready to be used. And here's a couple definitions of ready. In a suitable state for an activity, action, or situation, fully prepared to come down to Zechariah, let him know. Made suitable and available for immediate use. Eager, inclined, or willing to do something. Ready, consistently. In such a condition as to be likely to do something. Not just saying, yeah, I'm going to do it, but I condition my life to prep myself to be ready for God. that is a sermon in itself, and I will speak on that. That will be the title consistently. Conditioning yourself to be ready, meaning I'm conditioning my schedule, I'm conditioning my relationships, I'm conditioning my habits, I'm taking away habits, I'm adding habits, I'm conditioning what happens before I go to sleep to get ready for the morning. I'm conditioning myself to be ready because I don't want to just be Jag, I want to consistently be Jag. Here's one. Easily available or obtained, within reach. I get myself, I had to ask myself that question. God, would you consider me easily obtainable in the sense of being used? Boom, you say it, I'll do it. Am I easily attainable? Am I within reach of, boom, I'll do it? And that question hurts me because I feel bad. I'm like, dang, I need to get there. I need to get there because I want to please God. I need to get there because this guy loves me. And let's start looking at these things that are not causing me to be there because I want to say I stand in your presence. That's what keeps me up. In fact, I thought about when Gabriel said stand. I thought, well, there's a bunch of things that can make you stand. If we're thinking it metaphorically, right? Your job security can make you stand upright, because that's what stand means, upright. It can make you feel upright. Financial security, which nothing wrong with that. You know, wise being wise. But we can use that, because when things go bad, it can tear us down, but we can use that to keep us upright and stand. Well, I don't see us having this problem because we're not bougie, but the car you have, most people use their car to make them feel upright and stand in life. Your status, where you are, your class, what you got, what you're wearing, all this stuff, your reputation can make you feel upright. As long as they're thinking some positive things about me, that keeps me upright, and we don't even know it. But Gabriel said, no. None of that stuff makes me stand. I stand in the presence of God. That's what makes me stand, because I know there's a bunch of ways and other ways to stand, but I chose to stand in the presence of God only for one reason. All that other stuff is not going to hold me up, because it will fade. It will die out. There's a cycle life for that. And there is no expiration date for eternity with God that will keep me standing. So I'm going to choose that. I think that's a better investment. Last thing that Gabriel said, I am Gabriel. I stand in the presence of God. I was sent to speak to you. I was sent. That speaks purpose. That speaks our theme, purpose. Because we're in the stage, we're in the level now that we need to be going out, shooting out. If you look at this logo right here, it's an arrow. And arrows are not meant to stay in, what's that called, PS? Quiver. It's not meant to stay there. It's not meant to stay in that. It's meant to be, quiver? Quiver. I said quiver, like somebody's name. So it's not meant to stay there. It's meant to be shot out. It's meant to go do something. It's meant to go hit something. It's meant to know its target to hit. It's meant to be used. That's what we stand for here. So we went from heroes theme being about identity, I am Gabriel. We went from higher to know what to do. I stand in the presence of God. This is how I'm fueled. This is how I get higher in the presence of God. And now we are in purpose. I was sent to speak, especially. There's some translations that said, especially to you, Zechariah. And that's the level we are in. That's why we are in purpose. So we don't stop with Heroes because it's done. Heroes continues on. Higher continues on because the standard is I stand in the presence of God, and we are now in purpose. What are we doing? What is our target? What is our purpose? Because he knew exactly why he was down there, because he heard what he needs to say and he brought it down. And I wonder, like, why didn't God just say it audibly? Like, why not? He's spoken to people before. I feel like this is a great example to show us, look, even I sent my angel to go do this. It's like, come on, guys. We are sent. We are supposed to be shot out. I was sent to speak to you. Speak, to use words in order to declare one's mind and disclose one's thought. Another, if you look into the word, what he was saying, I was sent to preach to you. Raise your hand. How many preachers in the room? Every single hand should go up. This is not the only form of preaching. This is not the only form of preaching. You're disqualifying yourself because of up here. This is not the only form of preaching. I come into office, you come into school, you whatever. Your life speaks. You speak one-on-one to somebody, that's preaching. Like, you should be preparing just like we're preparing up here. Like, I'm about to say some stuff. Wake up in the morning, God fill me up, give me the words, Holy Spirit, because I'm about to go to work and I'm about to say some stuff. I was sent to speak especially to you. Especially to you. There's a point I want to bring up. And this point is going to come from a story. A story that happened. It's not just a story, but this happened. And it's in Mark, because Mark has the best explanation of it, in my opinion, because it's more detailed. But it's about the widow. The widow who gave the 2 copper coins. Mark 12. Verse 41. And this is leading into my next point. I just want you guys to get the context of this next point, because I need this point. I need to live this next point every day of my life. So, Mark 12, verse 41. And he, Jesus, he sat down opposite the treasury and watched the people putting money into the offering box. Many rich people put in large sums, and a poor widow came and put in 2 small copper coins, which makes a penny. That is sad. And he called his disciples to him and said to them, "Truly, I say to you, this poor widow has put in more than all those who are contributing in the offering box. For they all contributed out of their abundance, but she, out of her poverty, has put in everything she had, all she had to live on." I know for a fact many of you have heard this. Some of you may not have heard this story. And there's a bunch of things in here that hit home, so many messages. And we, sadly, only associate this with money. And I'm going to say why that's like robbing the greatness of this scripture. I grew up only associating it with money, so what I did was like, okay, make sure I'm not that rich dude. I'm going to give financially. I'm going to give. I'm going to give. I'm going to give. So he says, out of abundance, the rich people gave. Out of poverty, she gave. And all that means is poverty, yes, it means lack, poor, lack of resources and stuff. But another definition of poverty is insufficient amount. Let's see why that's important. Insufficient amount, not enough. Out of her poverty, she gave. And the sad thing is this, out of her poverty, how many times, do you know how many times we hold back from God because we've determined it's not enough to give him something? Do you know how many times we hold back from God because it's not enough? Think about it, just like Adam blamed Eve when Jesus came, it's these feelings you gave me. It's not enough to make me do something for you, God. I need an abundance of feeling good in order to give out of my abundance. But my feelings right now are in poverty, so no, I'm not going to give because I've determined it's not enough. It's the salary you gave me, God. I need to be able to give out of my abundance, but what you've given me, it's not enough to give out of poverty. It's this mindset you gave me. It's these coworkers you've given me. They don't give me an abundance of feeling good, so I'm not going to walk in there and say I am Gabriel because I'm not going to, these two copper coins are not enough. And what I'm trying to show you guys is we subconsciously determine what's enough in order to act for God. And we love acting out of our abundance of something, our feelings, our motivation. I feel motivated, let's go. Fresh ideas, fresh thoughts. But when it's low, we usually don't think about, I have a past. That widow had a past. That widow lost her husband, lost her financial income, working a day's worth of work to use that day's worth to give at that time. And out of the not enough, the inefficient amount she gives, when your feelings are low, we still have an opportunity to give out of our poverty. For example, if you can see, we got the preaching team. I love that. Rarely do you see that in churches. We got the preaching team. Like Pastor Art said right before I spoke, everybody got different styles and all this stuff. But it's so easy for me to say this, is that pretty much all the rest of them, they've covered more of the Bible than I have. Like, PA is a freak of nature when it comes to this word. Like, he's been years and years in this word. And it's just God combined work ethic and just God's talent and gifting and put it inside of him, and boom, I can't touch this guy with that. Pastor Sharon's been doing ministry 30 years plus. And she's been able to speak things and cover more area than I have. You think about AK, every time he speaks, he talks about consistently, I'm every day, at least one thing. He's been under Pastor Art way more years than I have, been speaking and doing the word, all this stuff. I already know that he knows more than me in the word. Jawanza went to school for this stuff. I'm not even touched because that Greek and all that stuff, I don't even want to even mess with. Joseph, Emily, I hear them talk and I'm like, dang, you're talking about a story I didn't read yet. They all know more than me. But guess what? So what? You're going to get this message. Just like the widow said, I know I'm coming from poverty, but you're going to get these coins. It's going to be dropped in. So it doesn't matter that I'm lacking here, lacking there. These are the 2 copper coins. Okay, God, they're going to get this message. They're going to get this word. And so it doesn't even stop here. When I'm talking about, we're supposed to go on our job, and yes, man, these circumstances aren't great. These people treat me wrong, but you're going to get this spirit. Trust and believe. I'm going to come in and you're going to get this. When it comes to the dream that God puts in us, and it's like, oh man, this is so big. But guess what? You're going to get this work. because I'm going to work hard to make sure, Father, I'm doing the things that you want to accomplish this dream. So it doesn't matter that I'm not working off of abundance. In fact, I shouldn't even be speaking up here. I grew up when I was little sucking on my thumb, and it made a gap in my teeth that is permanently there. I have the option to do surgery. I'm not going to do that. It's not that serious. So I speak with a slur sometimes, right? And that could have been a poverty coin. That I could have been like, PA, I'm good. I don't want to go up there. I don't have an abundance of speaking properly. My grammar is kind of shot sometimes. All this stuff. I'm not thinking like that. Because of the love of God, I'm not thinking like that. Despite this gap, despite this slur, you're going to get this word. All this time that I was worshiping and everything, you're going to get this. I mean, I am taking it seriously because we were like rap battles in the world, like they go at it. And this one guy, and it always stuck with me. And that's where I got this phrase from. And he just came in, and listen, he was rapping, people were interrupting. He's like, no, I came ready. You gonna get this work. Trust and believe you're gonna get this regardless of what you say about me, what I don't have, what you have, whatever the world's throwing at me, you are going to get this. And I promise you, you best believe it. It's coming to you. It's coming in your heart because it came from God. It's gonna change how you see the scripture. It's gonna change your perspective on life, and you're gonna go out there because you're gonna feel convicted. Why? Because I know it comes from God, and you're gonna get this word. And it's crazy, like that's what we're all called to go into areas of our life like this, because it's sad. It's sad how much we could be robbing people. It was because of 2 copper coins. You guys remember Robert Melendez? Yes. Great, oh my goodness. This guy, faithful man of God. I've never seen somebody like that, a heart like that, right? It was him. He used his 2 copper coins that changed literally my life. I remember Pastor David was trying to get him prepped to start a Spanish service. And so he had him up here speaking. And man, he was sweating. He was nervous. And the sound was going bad. There was feedback. And Pastor David looked at me, and, he was rough. He was just like, listen, you got to fix this thing or whatever. I'm like, I'm sorry, but he's not really a good speaker up there because he's too nervous. But he did it anyway. He took the task on anyway, a task that would fail in people's eyes. But he took those 2 copper coins and said, it doesn't matter. You're going to get this obedience, Father. And so he did that, and they made a flyer that would then go to a family, that they would then come here, that would have one of the daughters there that would be my wife, because Robert Melendez said, you're going to get this. Regardless of what I don't have, you're going to get this. And it changed my life. I don't know what would have been if Robert said, that's not enough. I'm not going to do this. Like, I can't imagine Tiffany not being in my life. I would not be here. It's crazy. Like, my life would have went a totally different direction. But Robert said, this is all I got. You're going to get this. And all I want to say to you guys, you got to get up. You got to look at that pot in life. You guys, I'm going to give this to you. You're going to get this regardless. So, Father, I ask that you just begin to show us the areas of our lives that have poverty, the so-called poverty in them, a so-called lacking in them. And I ask that you put a heart, if we don't have confidence, Father, put your confidence in us and let us say that they're going to get this anyway. So I ask that you birth that in people's hearts. I ask that you birth that in their minds. I ask that you birth that in their spirit. Awaken them so that they can come, walk into their work, walk into their day and say, you are going to get this spirit. You're going to get this love. Why? Because I am Jag. I stand in the presence of God, and I was sent especially for you. So you're going to get this.